Guys, welcome to your science class. Today in science, we are going to start our new lesson. So kindly open your Science Learners book. We are in Unit 3, Changing Materials. And today we are going to start our lesson 3.5. The name of our lesson is Why is the Sea Salty? Page number 34 and 35 of your Science Learners book. So hurry up, open your Science Learners book, page number 34, 35. The name of the lesson is Why is Sea Salty? So in this lesson, we are going to learn where does the salt come from? Where does the salt come from to the sea? That's why the water of the sea is salty. So in this lesson, we are going to learn some of the words. Dissolve, write them in your notebook and try to memorize them. Salty, dissolve, salty, rock, river, and sea. Dissolve, salty, rock, river, sea. So when we see the first question, the sea is salty. Where does the salt come from? So salt comes from rocks on land, river, and rain wash the salt into the sea. This is the first thing that from where the salt comes. First one, salt comes from the rock on the land and how it reaches to the sea. River and rain wash the salt, and it takes the salt into the sea. Understand? Second one, salt comes from the rocks at the bottom of the sea. You know that in the bottom of the sea, there are some rocks, and in the rocks we have salt. So when the salt also comes from the rock that are beneath, or you can say that which are under the sea bed. From there, you can also bring some of the salt in the water. You can see that when you go to the beach or another sea, Red Sea or other sea, when you enter the sea, if the water goes inside your mouth, the taste of water is salty. And in today's class, we are discussing the same, that why the sea water is salty. The sea water is salty because salt comes from the rock. River and rain wash the salt into the sea. And salt also comes from the rocks that are under the sea. Okay, salt also comes from the rocks that are on the bed of the sea. So these are two ways in which salt that makes the sea water salty. So see here, you can see the picture in your learner's book. The sea is salty. Where does the salt come from? Here you can see from the clouds we get rain, okay? And it is making a river. And here are the rocks that are in the middle of the way of river and rainwater while it is reaching the sea, okay? So salt are in the rocks. When the rainwater comes and flows over the rocks, it mixes the salt into the water and that water goes inside the sea. Second thing, Salt comes from the rocks at the bottom of the sea. Here you can see the bottom of the sea. There are also made of rocks. So when water is coming and coming and it is washing the rocks, what is happening? The salt inside the rocks are mixing in the water. That is why the sea water is salty. The seawater is salty. People can get salt from the sea and from rocks under the ground. So what we do, everyone knows that it is very important for humans to eat salt, okay? Because many of the illness is cured by the salt. So when we are making a food or we are cooking the food, we use salt in the food, okay? So that salt, we want to take it out. We are going to get that salt from the sea or underground the rocks. Underground the rocks. The hot sun is used to dry up pools of seawater. The salt is left behind. So what happens when we want salt? We suck the water which is in the ground and we leave the ground so that sun makes the salt dry, and then we collect the dry salt, and by processing we put them in the packets, we put them in the bottles, and then we send them in the market, okay? So how we make salt? From the sea and from the digging the rocks under the ground which have salt, okay? And how do we dry the rock? We dry the salt with the help of sun. You know that the rays of sun are very hard and hot, okay? When we leave something under the sun, it dries the water and it makes it dry. The salt is left behind. When water is gone, what is left, boys? The salt, milk, that we use in our food. Salt is dug from the rocks under the ground. Salts can also be dug in those countries which do not have sea, okay, like Afghanistan, from where they bring the salt. They dug the rocks under the ground and they take out the salt because they don't have sea. So they dug the rocks, and from the rocks they get the salt. So Allah has given different ways and different types of salts so that we can find it and use it according to our needs. Okay, here is the question. The sea is, what is the sea, boys? Sweet or salty? You can send your answers in the chat section. The sea is sweet or salty? You can see here even the salt inside the sea. So we will say that the sea is salty. What is the sea, boys? The sea water is salty. Even when you go to the sea and sometimes the water comes inside your mouth, you feel that the water is salty. So the sea water is salty, not sweet. No, it is salty. Okay, moving on to the next question. We get salt from. So here are the three ways we get salt. You can see the picture. The first one is from the sea. Second one from river, and rocks on the lands, we get salt from there also. Okay, so here are the three things from which we get salt. Okay, sea, river, rocks on lands.